And welcome to At Home on Earth Day. All of us are at home. We're going to be visiting with some great folks from the environmental community around the world. And we're going to start with Barbara Clifton Zarate. And Barbara, say hello to our audience.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Kevin.
So, Barbara, one of the first things I'd love for you to do is explain a little bit about what we heard and also offer us an acknowledgement of, well, the land we are on and show how we begin on a day like today especially.
Great. Well, yes, a land acknowledgement would be appropriate. So from my heart, I send out respect and honor the Miwok people of the land here in Novato, California, Marin County, who live on these lands, the indigenous peoples who were stewards and have been living on the land from time immemorial. And that is what a land acknowledgement is. It's wherever you're at, wherever you reside or gather, it's understanding who the indigenous people or first peoples of that area are and their history and their current realities and showing them the respect and honor through a land acknowledgement.
Thank you. I'm so delighted that you are here to explain this because not all of us know what it is that we are doing sometimes when we acknowledge that the land is important and how we can be good stewards of the land. It's especially different from the way it was, centuries ago when our ancestors, all of our ancestors, recognized something about the earth that we occasionally lose nowadays. So what can you tell me about who you are and where you are and how you are this Earth Day?
So it is a beautiful Earth Day. Yes, and every day is Earth Day, but especially enjoying today. The sun's out. And, a little bit about me. My background is in public health, and I've worked in human service for about 3 decades. Currently, I work in philanthropy, and right now, front and center is COVID-19 response and relief. I'm a spiritual activist. I'm the drum keeper of the White Buffalo Women Council drum, which is a healing drum. The council lifts visibility to issues that impact indigenous people. I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, and I'm called to serve. And if I can offer humbly any healing at a time when so many are feeling pain, that is why I'm here. While I'm on this earth, I hope to offer something.
Yay. I mean, that is, I think, what we all want to do. So I'm glad that we have you telling us about the example that we can all be for others as well. Speaking of examples, this broadcast is aimed at kids and families. Many kids will be experiencing Earth Day in a way for the first time. And it's pretty special that this is Earth Day's 50th anniversary. How you interact with kids pretty frequently. How do you talk about Earth Day?
Well, first I think I'd like to share a bit that, we have the healing wisdom and teachings of the indigenous peoples that have been practiced for tens of thousands of years, right? And they call us to remember that we're all connected. And each of us, no matter where our ancestors were from, come from an indigenous people that were connected to our Mother Earth, right? And right now, Mother Earth is asking us to be still, to pause, right? To reflect, to shift. She's kind of has us on a timeout. She's put us humans on a timeout. And while we're isolating in our homes, the other beings on the earth are coming out, right? They had to hide because of us. And right now we're seeing these great things, right? The air's cleaning, the water's running clear, marine life is rebounding, all these creatures are coming out, like mountain goats and whales and sea turtles in India and deer in London and wild boars in Italy and coyotes in San Francisco, right? Bears at the beach and increased fauna. And that isn't just because it's spring, it's because our footprint has been lifted. So when I think about, what would I tell people? What do you do? Part of it is, well, what calls to you? What pulls at your heartstrings? What do you burn for? And for some, maybe it's protecting the water, the animals, the bees, the butterflies, stopping fossil fuel extraction, whatever calls to you, stand up, speak up. I mean, there's so many things that could be done. And with children and families, when we think about all the things that we can do to make shift, we can do it with our children. We can fill out the census form with them and educate them about that process. We can vote and go through that process, teaching them, divest, make calls, join networks, right? So many things, teaching traditional ecological knowledge, practicing self-care and role modeling that, growing food and medicine, conserving water and resources, and building community. All those things are so critically important for children. But there's some fun activities, and there's one in particular I'd like to share. I just think it's a brilliant activity for children, actually for anyone. But if you're a family with children and you really want to engage them, and as we're isolating in our homes, I think this is a great activity for now. And I call it the pick three. You can do this in different ways. You can do a scavenger hunt or just pick three things a day. But what you do first, I don't know how many of you have seen the video, The Story of Stuff. If you haven't seen it or you haven't seen it in a while, I recommend you watch that again. After you watch it, pick three things in your home. Maybe it's an apple, a cup, a shoe, and you're going to ask a few questions. And if you do a scavenger hunt, then the kids find the things and then you ask the questions. So where did this come from? Was this from the orchard down the way, or did it come from 3 states away or another country? Who grew it? Who picked it? Right? What was their life like? How much money did they earn? Or how did the production or the harvest of this impact the earth, the water, the air? Or maybe it's a product like this, right? What is it made of? Where did that material come from? How did the production of it impact our earth or the water, the air? It's a great activity because children have a natural curiosity. And building children's understanding of the world through environmental inquiry is just brilliant, right? And the other win of it, even after, well, I would say, while we're in isolation, you could probably go through your whole home in the next month. And then after isolation is lifted, you can do this in the grocery store, and I guarantee you, consumerism would reduce because we'd really begin to think about what we're buying and where it comes from and the impact, right? So that's a really fun activity.
It's something that I would like to do very mindfully for myself. So I say it's not just for kids, it's for anybody. Hey, Barbara, we are going to move on to our next guest. We've got a whole bunch of people coming on today. I want to thank you for coming on. And by the way, say hey to the White Buffalo Woman Council drum, and thank you for letting us use your performance.
Will do. Blessings to all. See you, Kevin.
Okay. Bye-bye, Barbara.
Bye-bye.
So, and Barbara, you have to click the leave room button.
There we go.
Yay. Oh, the glories of being in a modern world. All right, our next guest is Teron McGrew. She is the Climate Justice Co-Chair of Climate Reality Project Bay Area Chapter. And I see you there, Teron. Let's get you on. Say hey.
Hello, Kevin. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're welcome.
For a wonderful and special broadcast on a special day.
So I see you, and thank you for the excellent art direction behind you. It seems like you're practically in a shrine.
Well, with excellent guidance and direction, I'm happy to have provided that environment for you.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about where you are and what you're doing.
Actually, I am in Oakland, California, and I am standing on the native lands of the indigenous people of the Ohlone people, of whom I always give respect, as well as my ancestors. I reside in Bushrod, California, in Oakland, California. And I am the co-chair of the Climate Justice for the Climate Reality Project Bay Area chapter.
Okay. Thank you again for joining us, by the way. So, you know that this broadcast is for families, for kids. It may be the first time that a kid may have an awareness of what Earth Day is all about. Tell me a little bit about you and how you honor Earth Day just for yourself.
For myself. Well, Earth Day is very important because we're giving a tribute to Mother Earth. We say Earth Day, but there are people like me who acknowledge her as Mother Earth. That is the earth of which we live, that sustains us, keeps us going. And right now we're in a threat of her in her non existence. So for me, today is a day of honor, of bringing attention to the urgency of climate change and how our youth are so incredibly important to this movement and helping us to fight climate change and make our and save our planet Earth.
And so that seems like a tall order, right? If someone said, oh, we've got to really make sure that we take care of the earth, and some of the things that we need to do include sort of, healing the earth from generations of problematic behavior on our part. But what do you say to people who say, just give me something easy to do? How do I start getting involved with that?
I think, first I want to just explain what climate justice is so that people have an understanding from the heart stance and why it's so important. Climate justice really is the inconsistent underdevelopment of communities, people of color, normally African Americans, Latino, Indigenous people. We live in the most vulnerable infrastructures in the urban core. And we don't even know what's happening to us because we're faced with asthma, where it's our health. But what we need to do as far as taking care of ourselves in understanding what climate justice is that we first have to just breathe and understanding that we are all in this together, that we are all from the same planet, the same soil, and that we're all a part of this great beat that keeps us going. And so, what we need to do is to acknowledge the injustices that have happened to vulnerable communities, understanding and knowing that we may not know all of their history, but we're all the same and that we're all in this together. And if we don't come together with all of our different, from all different walks of life, all the different shades of color, that Mother Earth is really in danger. I
You
think
know,
today is a special day in telling us and in making us acknowledge that she's telling us, I need you. And I need you to put aside all your differences to unite and to help me survive.
speaking of putting aside differences, having sat in on a climate reality project meeting with you, it is really interesting me how there's just so many different kinds of people, from the wealthy people to the not so wealthy people. There's black, there's brown, there's white, there's yellow. There's so much diversity at Climate Reality Project. Is that by intention? Is that by design?
I always speak my truth. And I first just want to bring to the reality that when we look at the iconic figure of a polar bear, we immediately associate it with the environment. We know that. But most of us who know that are educated, wealthy people. Whereas that polar bear does not represent what it means for you and I in understanding to a vulnerable community. It represents asthma. But the reason I stay and I am an advocate and activist and rooted myself in the Climate Reality Project is because our founder and former United States Vice President Al Gore has made a strong commitment in bringing marginalized communities, people of color, and frontline communities to the forefront and to the table where decisions are made. So that's very healthy and it's very wholesome for me because in that diversity comes real, effective, wholesome, heartfelt change. And that's how we're going to be able to fight this climate change and saving our planet Earth, Mother Earth, by us all coming together and putting down our differences and knowing that we are all standing in a common goal, and that is to save our Earth.
Oh gosh, you are just a walking interview, and I appreciate that. By the way, I see that Alverdia Owen says, "Happy Earth Day, Teron."
Oh, thank you. Hello, Albertia. She's a part of the West Oakland indicator project, as well as the Howard Terminal cohort, where we are working with environmental issues in West Oakland. So I'm so happy that she is watching me and supporting our efforts and coming together to solve climate change.
Well, cheers to Alverdia. Cheers to you too, Teron. All right, our next guest is going to come
Thank
in
you.
just a moment. Thank you. Remember to hit the leave room button. We're a low budget production here, and we only afford one person in the room. So
Oh,
again, Teron, thank you, and we'll follow up and chat soon.
all right. Thank you so much, Kevin, for this wonderful opportunity. Take care now.
All
Happy.
right, cheers. Bye bye. Oh, sorry, I realized I'm directing this and hosting it at the same time, so pardon anything like me calling myself Darren McGrew at the bottom of the screen. If you're watching this and have a question for any of our guests, you can go ahead and type that into the comments section. That's right in your. It should be right next to your window. We have a bunch of people coming up who are all involved in environmental activism in one way, shape, or form. They are the people who make things happen, the people who do things even when it seems like we can't do anything. They make things happen. I want to just give a quick shout out to my colleagues in different environmental corners of the Bay, because in the Bay Area there are so many different people, so many people who come to environmentalism from the standpoint of a parent, from the standpoint of a child, from someone who's in the workplace, someone who's working through a faith group or a community group. There's so much room for people to come in and do interesting and valuable work. I hope that as you are enjoying your Earth Day, and hopefully you are enjoying your Earth Day, even though we are having Earth Day at home, I hope that you're able to find a place. And I want to do a quick shout out to Green Change. Anybody from Green Change out there? Raise your hand. Oh yeah, I can't see you, but if you're able to put into the comments where you're from and what group you might be involved with, then that's something that we would be interested in hearing and responding to. I also want to put a shout out to Cool the Earth. Cool the Earth is an organization that's been around since 2007. We're going to be visited by Carleen Cullen, the co-founder with her husband Jeff of Cool the Earth. She is going to be talking mostly about Adopt a Polar Bear And if you haven't had a chance to go to the Cool the Earth page, that's cooltheearth.org, and see what Adopt a Polar Bear is all about, you should, because it's fun. It's something that's designed for kids and families to do, but it's about making a difference in ways that you wouldn't expect a kid or a family to be able to make a difference. Carleen came up with this idea, and she'll tell you a little bit about this when she joins a little later in the hour. Carleen came up with the idea to do something that was going to be meaningful and important for people who are stuck at home, as so many of us are, on a day like Earth Day, when typically there might be things going on outside. There might be beach cleanups or plantings, or in any case, gatherings in a park or long walks out in the great outdoors. Carleen came up with this idea for getting kids and families engaged in a story about Coda the polar bear. Now, if you've been a fan of Cool the Earth, you know that Coda the polar bear is a long-time character, and I'm actually delighted that that Carleen is going to be able to tell you about that a little later in the broadcast. All right, in the meantime, oh, it's Kat! Yay!
Didn't click that way in, but I'm here.
Okay, you're here. Let
Happy
me.
birthday.
Yeah, happy Earth Day. Let me get you on screen here. But let me also say, Kat Taylor is the co-founder and board chair of Beneficial State Bank and the founding director of TomKat Ranch Educational Foundation. So, yay, Kat, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me today. It's a wonderful way to celebrate an important day.
Yeah, it's just great to have you here and good to see you as always. So basically, I've just been asking people to spend a little bit of time talking about themselves and their work. We've got a great audience of kids and families out there who, some of them are going to be sort of celebrating Earth Day in a different way, and some of whom are celebrating Earth Day for the first time. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and your work.
Sure. Thank you. So I care a lot about systems change to make sure that we create beloved communities that are ecologically sustainable, racially equitable, and socially just for all people. And what I mean by systems change is that we work in these giant systems that have lots of different elements and structures and cycles. You can think of it like a solar system, or the soil, which is its own living system. When you approach problems at the systems level, you can identify the root causes of anything that's giving you trouble, and therefore open up a much bigger solution set to address those problems. So in my life, I've had the great privilege to work in systems that I call good food, good money, and good energy. At the heart of good food, we started a ranch, TomKat Ranch, to try to understand how agriculture, which is the dominant way we tend our planet, can be done in a way that's super sustainable and regenerative. In the heart of good money, we started a bank, Beneficial State Bank, because banking we think of as the original and most powerful form of crowdfunding. Deposits that we put in banks fund a lending practice which literally builds the society in which we live and work. So it's important to get right. And at the heart of good energy, which is really right now critically focused on the crisis of climate change, we have some political problems. So we need to come together as people in our democracy and our global communities to address climate change together as a global issue.
I love that you can talk about this in ways that give me hope, because, you know, I'm sure you run into this where people say, I'm just one person, I can't really do anything. Even if I get together with my neighbors or my little community, there's no way we can make a big enough change to make a difference. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling you talk to them and say, well, here's what I think. I mean, how do you talk to people who say it's just too big of a problem?
Yeah. I know it seems very daunting. These are massive problems with complex roots. But the fact is, when we all come together and operate on some ethical principles, we can move mountains, literally. So, in terms of banking, if we align our banking with our values and we bank with good banks and credit unions that finance wonderful things like renewable energy or sustainable agriculture, community economic development that's equitably just, then we're part of creating change in our communities that accumulates into really powerful forces. Banking is the biggest industry in the United States, and if we all aligned our banking with our values, it would produce all the wonderful things we want it to produce. If you think about the protesters at Dakota Access Pipeline, that was a crisis around a threat to a precious local resource, water, the trampling on of indigenous rights, and the acceleration of global climate change. And when people went there to protest, it caught the attention of the world. And a lot of people protested the banks who had financed the pipeline and pulled their money out of there. And believe me, that was noticed. I'll use one more example, the Divest Invest movement, especially on college and university campuses, where students come together to insist that those universities and colleges manage their money in a way that doesn't contribute to fossil fuel development and therefore climate. So coming together, we do much better together than we can apart.
You are speaking the language we all need to hear, and it reminds me that we have all heard such inspirational language from youth in our world. I mean, Greta Thunberg is certainly the most well-known example, but I have a feeling you must run into kids who are in their teens, and of course, I think of kids being in their 20s now.
Yeah.
What about your interaction with the youth of our country, of our world, gives you some hope, some encouragement?
Well, sure. We're very lucky in the company that we keep. On the banking side, we recruit enormous numbers of young people who wouldn't work for just any bank. They want to work for a bank that's aligned with environmental well-being and social justice. And they have fantastic ideas about how to solve some of the big problems in our world. On the food side, of course, everybody eats. It's a very poignant, compelling way to engage. And when we choose our food carefully, we influence the food supply chain from which it comes. So we work with a lot of students in public schools to make sure they're getting the very best California purchased, locally grown, mostly organic, minimally preserved and processed, cooked from scratch food. And when you accumulate all those students making that choice and getting that good food, that's 1 billion meals a year, and that changes the supply chain in food. And then on the university side, I've had the great privilege of working with the Divest Invest community and a lot of the college campus leadership. And they are pointing out that even in the time of COVID, the crisis around the pandemic and the economic shutdown, which of course are top of mind, we have to remember that this is our chance to reveal and recognize the deep problems in our economy and our ecology, all the while that have been made worse by COVID, but it's time to address them once and for all. Even something like universal broadband, which we don't have yet, a terrible digital divide, is being accentuated in the COVID crisis because we're asking students to do distance learning remotely from their homes. And if they don't have broadband or Wi-Fi, how on earth are they going to do that? So let's fix these things once and for all.
You know, you can't help nowadays but talk about the crisis in public health, and I'm sure you also hear the conversation being, well, we can't worry about the environment and we can't worry about food or banking or anything. We just need to fix the crisis in public health. And what do we say? What do you say to someone who says, you know, you can't do these things all at once?
Yeah. So, of course, our first regard has to be for those afflicted with the virus and the frontline caregivers and emergency responders who are risking their own lives to help other people. Nobody would ever disagree with that emphasis. But in fact, we may find out that our vulnerability to pandemics and our inability to respond to disasters in general have a root cause in the unsustainability of our ecological commons and the way we manage our economy. So we need to do both at once. We have to provide the immediate care and safety and concern for those afflicted and those caring, but we have to get to the root causes of a bunch of these problems. And our agricultural system needs to be resilient to disasters, not just of a health nature, but we can expect to have disasters related to climate because we're past a bunch of tipping points. And if we don't have a secure food supply, we'll just run from one emergency to another.
So you've got a chance to say to some kids and families out in the audience today, and then this will be recorded and shown and available on the web. You've got a chance to say to them, here's some things that you can do. What do you suggest?
Well, I thought a lot about this because it's been a while since I was a child, but I know that my deep regard for our ecological systems, Mother Earth, nature, came in part from being immersed in nature. And it's really a part of honoring nature to be in it, to experience it. Whether that's understanding the constellations and how we fit into our physical universe, or digging into the dirt, which once you dig into healthy soils, you find out it's not dirt at all. It's a whole living system with billions of organisms and mycorrhizal superhighways running throughout it. And I think that natural curiosity helps us become lifelong learners because these are complex issues. You have to really study them. I had to really study the banking system to understand even how I could begin to try to be of service to changing it for good. I have to understand the science of agriculture if I'm going to be of service to creating a sustainable food system. So I think it's being out, appreciating nature, which is nothing but fun, and then having the curiosity to learn deeply about these fields. And I'll put in one appeal. We have too few people understand how the economy works, how finance works, how business works. But business and the economy drive deep and lasting societal outcomes, not just business ones. So I always appeal to young people to really dig into those subjects too. Absolutely.
By the way, I want to tell you that I am going to learn to use the term mycorrhizal superhighways. And I'm going to work that into my conversation at some point soon, and thank you in my mind as I do. So, yay for calling out the need for all of us, kids and adults, to continue to learn, to keep our hands in the soil and our minds alert to all the possibilities, whether it's in nature or in the economy. There's just things we can do and ways we can live in the world that will be helpful, right?
Absolutely. A couple, let's see, 7 billion heads are better than one.
All right. It's been so lovely to have you here. I really want to say thank you and see you around the Hip Hop Dance Fest this year, I hope.
Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it. I hope we get to congregate again, but I know Mikaya's smart. She'll have us doing it virtually. Could I close with a short song?
Go ahead.
All right. They say that these are not the best of times, but they're the only times I'll ever know. And I believe there is a time for meditation in cathedrals of our own. So when I see that sad surrender in my brother's eyes, I can stand aside and only sympathize. For we are always what our situation hands us, with either sadness or euphoria. We're going for euphoria.
You are awesome. You are the best.
Thanks, Kevin.
Kat Taylor, we'll see you soon. I need you to hit that leave button and we'll get our next guest on. Cheers. Oh my gosh, that is just amazing. That's so lovely. Well, for those of you who have just joined us, we're halfway through our broadcast, more than halfway through our broadcast, actually. And our next guest will be arriving shortly. Um, so I want to again put in. Oh wait, there's Chance. That's hilarious. Chance is just making comments in the great point broadband. Yeah, yeah. Cat's got a lot of great points, and we're going to see Chance in. Oh, yeah. Chance is probably joining us now, soon. In the meantime, let me also point out that we've got Sylvia Potovsky coming up after Chance Cutrano. And then we're going to close the show with Carleen Cullen and talking about Cool the Earth, and Alissa Friedman, who is going to sing us out. It's been one of those things where I've been delighted to have so much good stuff. In the meantime, let me introduce Chance Cutrano. He is the Director of Programs at the Resource Renewal Institute. Chance, say hey.
Hey, how's it going, Kevin?
It's going well. Welcome to the broadcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing, on a scale of like 1 to 10, I would say I'm a 12, probably.
I want to know your secret. What would that be?
I think the secret is appreciation, taking a moment for appreciation of everything. And Earth Day is a perfect day to do it.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Well, so part of what we're doing, in addition to talking about, what kids and families can do in the future or now, is also understanding what we are doing. I mean, you are a climate leader. What are you doing for Earth Day?
Yeah, wow. For Earth Day, Earth Day is every day in the environmental business. And so while I do nonprofit work with the Resource Renewal Institute, I'm also the vice chair of the San Francisco Bay chapter of the Sierra Club. And I'm also on the open space committee for my town here in Fairfax, California. So, it's just bouncing around from project to project, really. And that's basically what today has been, bouncing around from project to project, hopping on different calls and organizing communities across this great state.
I heard you in your interview. It was a Sierra Club interview, and it was terrific because I loved the fact that you identified almost first and foremost as an artist. And I so get that, the notion that art and creating a better world are interlinked. Is that something that you find yourself coming back to on a regular basis?
Yeah, so I actually come from a background in music to the environmental movement as now a policy wonk. So it's kind of a switch, but I always have that artistic piece of me that I have to put into everything. The same way that you'd compose a song, or you might take, different mediums and put them together and create a new masterpiece. I feel like that's what we're doing when we're working on policy and we're trying to affect change for our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so tell me a little bit about your work. What is it that Resource Renewal Institute does?
Yeah, so Resource Renewal Institute is an environmental nonprofit up here in Marin, but it's made waves throughout California and throughout the world. It's been around for about 35 years now, which is pretty great, but it was founded by our current board chair, Huey Johnson, who is, an environmental superstar, founded the Trust for Public Land, built up the Nature Conservancy. And so he wanted to create this think tank where he could take some of the ideas he had when he was the Secretary of Resources for the state of California and put them to work. Long-term ecological planning called green planning, protecting our commons, the same thing that Kat had just spoken about. So that's some of the stuff that we've put into a lot of our projects. I focus on public lands protection as well as sustainable agriculture. So to Kat's points about getting your hands into soil and realizing how biodiverse that little community is and that you can cup in your hands, all the way up to these magnificent public lands and parks that we have access to. And it also circles back to Teron's point about the fact that for some people, they don't have access. And that is a huge piece of Earth Day. And our next step is making sure that we have access for all. So some of the work I do.
Awesome. Well, I'm a big fan of yours. Even though I look at you and I go, what are you, about 5 minutes old? Give or take, give or take. Anyway, look, so our next guest is going to be Sylvia Potovsky from Sunrise Movement Marin, who is 17 years old and has, her sleeves rolled up and getting the work done. So my hat's off to her. But before we get to Sylvia, to just close out with you, what kind of advice do you offer for the kids and families watching?
Yeah, so I'll try to make it like a neat closed loop that's kind of inspiring. I come from a household with community activism. My father was a community activist for things he was passionate about. And so early on, I saw that he modeled that for me, and I developed that understanding of my responsibility for my community. And that required, engagement. And I think that there are a bunch of different ways you can get involved, even just going to your local community choice aggregator and make sure you're using 100% renewable energy, whether it's East Bay Clean Energy, Marin Clean Energy, or Clean Power SF. You can check, and it might be a cup of coffee, like $5 a month extra to go to 100% renewable energy. But I actually got involved with the Sierra Club to move all of our municipalities here in Marin, first county in California, all municipalities 100% renewable energy. And I was a part of that movement, of a great environmental movement here. And I think that, it was scary to go and speak to public officials, but that modeling is so important for peers and for others in the community to get involved. And it's also so necessary. I told myself, we're making history, So do I want to be on the sidelines making history, fighting for our planet, or do I want to be in it with the community? And so, that circles all the way back around to that community activism that was ingrained in me early on and that I'm trying to pay forward to the next generation.
Oh, that is so lovely. And it's the kind of ethos that I hope more people feel in their heart and live in their lives. So Chance Cutrano, thank you very much. I'm going to welcome Sylvia shortly. Yeah, you have to click the little leave button. Yep. And again, thank you, Chance.
Thanks, Kevin. Have a great day.
Cheers, man. All right. So one of the joys of broadcasting like this is we get to meet people that we otherwise don't get a chance to meet and hear from them in an informal setting like this, where we're all wearing our sweats, or at least I am. I have a feeling that informal and casual is something that Sylvia Potovsky knows a little bit about. So without further ado, let me introduce Sylvia Potovsky, who is the Sunrise Movement Marin leader. Hi, Sylvia.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's so great to have you here. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days.
Well, I'm a senior. I go to Drake High School, and I'm the president of my Sunrise Club at my school and the leader of the Sunrise Hub. And I'm also kind of a leader of the environmental club at my school.
So,
go ahead.
I was going to say, so you're doing everything, and I have a feeling you must occasionally see friends, you must occasionally talk to your peers, and they must say, Sylvia, where do you find the time? How do you manage that?
Yeah, it's a lot to handle and manage, but I really like what I'm doing, and I really like helping the planet be better. So it fits really well into my interests in life.
Yay! Tell us a little bit about Sunrise.
So Sunrise is a primarily youth-led movement, and pretty much our main goal is to pass the Green New Deal and just educate our community more about, climate change, reversing climate change, because we have about 10 years to do that. And just generally, I think education's a big part of it, just so the more people know about it, the better.
Mm-hmm. It's the kind of thing that you encourage people to get pretty hands-on too, right? You do postcarding, you show up at local parks. I mean, I last time I saw you back when we could all get together was in San Anselmo, where you were helping, talk about why we should be divesting ourselves of investments in fossil fuels. So, what are you doing now that we can't meet in parks?
Well, I'm still been doing postcards a lot. So the postcard project is to write postcards to mostly disenfranchised voters, so they can vote in the next election. And a lot of work from home and like Zoom and like seeing people face to face over the internet's been really good too. So, it hasn't all stopped. It's definitely slowed down and you kind of have to, work around and try to start back up. But hopefully we'll start doing like virtual meetings soon and more initiatives like that.
Well, yay for that. And what advice do you have for kids and families at home who are looking at this going, well, I don't know, she's just way too together. I don't have it together. How can I really help?
I don't really have it. Like, I'm so all over the place and I still do so many things in my life, but it's not too hard to be an activist and do things for the earth. Like, I love working in the garden at my school or in my house. Like postcarding, like I said, and like there's a lot of different organizations that you can join and run. Like just little things. You can do more research about buying solar panels, electric cars, just living greener, buying produce that's local, and it's a big variety of things you can do, but it's not that hard.
Oh, yeah, it's not that hard. I appreciate the fact that you're humble and incredibly efficient. Well, Sylvia, we're going to have Carleen Cullen on shortly. Have you ever met Carleen?
I haven't.
Well, you're going to sort of meet her shortly, but I do want to say thank you. You've been so lovely and wonderful. And will you give regards to your mom, who I saw in San Anselmo?
Yes, I will. Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers, Sylvia. Take care. So, Sylvia, she is so great. Would that every 17-year-old I knew would that I had the discipline that Sylvia does to take care of things, do things, keep things going. So our next guest, Carleen Cullen, is a friend of mine from hip hop dance. Can I say that, Carleen? Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, Carleen Cullen. Let me read my note here. Cool the Earth co-founder and executive director. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic on Earth Day. It's great to have a day to celebrate life.
Yes. And what have you been up to for Earth Day? I hear there's a new program you've been talking about.
There is a new program, and as a matter of fact, before I get into that, I started Earth Day by walking my dog, and that was really fantastic. And then I took a few hours off, which I don't normally do, in the middle of the day, and went biking around China Camp. So,
awesome!
It was really fantastic. And sandwiched in between there, we released a new activity for K through 5 students that's really based upon a program we've been running for about 13 years. And with everybody sheltering in place, we decided that we'd do something very, outlandish and try to create a digital program, something that really engages the kids by Earth Day. And we made it by about 11:30 last night. We got it done.
Yes. So I may have gotten ahead of myself, and you did a good job of framing there the notion that you have been working as Cool the Earth for 13 years now. And part of Cool the Earth's mission is to make sure that people feel empowered to positively impact the environment, to reduce the effects of global warming. Can you back up for me and just give us that short introduction to what that was, how that came to be?
Sure. So in 2006, actually, it was when it all began, and when An Inconvenient Truth came out. And I had this notion that if people could learn about climate change and if they knew about it, that they would immediately jump into action. So we convened a lot of people, about 500 people, to see the film and over a few days. And then we talked about it, had a community discussion, gave them things to go home and do. And, about a month later, I went back and asked people what actions they had taken, and they hadn't taken any. And it was a very big eye opener to me that to really take a look at this from a behavioral change perspective, that information alone doesn't change people's minds. We have to really understand what motivates them, whether that's an economic opportunity, whether it's a social norm, whether it's children who are learning this and coming home, just like they did with Smokey the Bear or Don't Smoke campaigns, and bringing this home to their parents and saying, Mom and Dad, I learned about this today, and I want you to also learn about it and change your behavior.
That is so great. I love hearing that story. I mean, I've heard it, a couple, 3 times because I've asked you that on camera before, but it just makes me happy. It gives me hope for the future. Now, Cool the Earth has continued to be among the most important things in your activist life. Tell me, if you would, though, for a moment about Drive Clean Bay Area, because that's a big deal on Earth Day to mention how we make choices that really affect the Earth.
Right. So about 2 years ago, we developed a project called Drive Clean Bay Area, which is a collaboration of nonprofits. And it's all about helping people move from driving a gasoline car to either an electric vehicle, an electric bike, or using public transit, biking, etc. Basically anything other than getting into a gas car. People don't realize, even in the Bay Area, that about a third of all of our carbon emissions are from gasoline cars. They think it's from some other source, but it's really from our tailpipes. They also don't realize, but we're hoping to help them understand this with the blue skies, the beautiful blue skies we've had during this pandemic, that why don't we have these blue skies all the time? It's because of tailpipe emissions, once again, and manufacturing. But in the Bay Area, it's mostly tailpipe emissions.
So choices we make include cars we drive, how we transport ourselves, whether we're walking or taking mass transit. Fast forward to this crazy Adopt a Polar Bear plan that you have just launched today for anybody who's looking for something to do. I believe you have some good choices right there. Tell us about those choices.
Yes. So with Adopt a Polar Bear, the kids learn through this story of Coda, who is this young cub who his mom has gone off hunting but hasn't returned yet. And so Coda, with the help of Mother Nature, and then also with the nemesis of Mr. Carbon, and who's trying to make the Earth too hot, they go on this adventure. And Coda talks to the kids about climate change and teaching them about carbon dioxide and how their behaviors, such as turning off your computers when you're not using them, turning off your lights, a shorter shower. And so there's a lot of things children can do to set behaviors in place that we understand from a young age is what's essential. And then also for their parents, we have a video for their parents explaining about the importance of getting off of fossil fuels and things that they can do and how we can help them. And I want to point out, though, it's all of these have implications beyond the individual behavior change. Once people start to change their behavior, they then start to vote those values. And that's really important because they identify as being a part of the solution. So they start to vote that way. And when we stop buying oil's product, then we don't need to be protesting pipelines so much, because when the supply is as it is now is outnumbering the demand, then things will start to change. As Kat said, so systems thinking and getting off of oil is a big part of it.
This program has been really great for me. I mean, we started with the White Buffalo Woman Council drum and Barbara Clifton Zarate talking about our heritage, our eons of taking care of the earth. We talked to Teron McGrew about the ways in which everybody can help take care of the earth regardless of where they are, who they are. Kat Taylor talked a lot about this systems way that we have to look at things, and I'm hopeful that I can go back and look at that and learn, because she used some big words. Chance Cutrano talked about his work, and it's so inspirational. Sierra Club, and the things that he's doing in his day job for the Resource Renewal Institute just fascinate me. Sylvia Potovsky, so inspirational as a 17-year-old. She's just doing so much. And now you telling me that there are so many things that kids can do, families can do. Give us one inspirational idea for the next week or two. What would you have us do?
The most important thing I can imagine anybody doing is having a conversation in their family about this topic. Because once they start to join together, change starts happening, and that's so important. And you can see as families start to feel like they're part of the solution, they start to influence their community. So talk to your kids. Talk to your kids about this. They know about climate change. They've had to go to school with masks on because of the fires due to accelerated by climate change. They've had these heat days, etc. So they've been through droughts. Talk to your kids, engage them in solutions. Let them know that we have the power to make change.
All right, Carleen, you are inspirational. I thank you for making time tonight. We're close to the end of the hour. I have an exciting thing that we're going to do at the end here. My friend Alissa Friedman, who I know through social justice work, has written a song about Earth Day. And I'm going to say bye to you, and we'll be chatting soon, right?
Absolutely. Kevin, thanks so much. See you in the pink sweatshirt soon. Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope to have the pink sweatshirt available soon.
All right.
Cheers.
All right. See you later.
And then, so Alissa, thank you for making this song available. Thank you, audience, for being here. I'm going to press play on this, and it's going to make me smile. Hope it makes you smile, too.
Are the birds louder, or am I just listening? Take my hand and walk with me. Kick off your sandals and step in the grass. What do you feel with your feet? Planet Earth holds us. We are never alone. Taking care of planet Earth is taking care of home. North in the Arctic, the bears will be hunting, swimming and chasing the seals. Where will they rest if the icebergs are melting? That wasn't part of the deal. Planet Earth holds us. We are never alone. Taking care of planet Earth is taking care of home. Turn off the heater, ride your bike, hang the wash to dry. Carpool with neighbors, flip the lights. What would you like to try? Planet Earth holds us. We are never alone.